I was not ready to get my heart torn apart in tiny pieces like this. Hello everyone, it's Leo and this is the first video of Cinnamon After Dark, a new channel that I created to talk about other magical girls. And now Magical Cinnamon is only for Precure. Please ignore the Magical Cinnamon border here. It is going to change in the future, but sometimes we just have to start things because if we don't, we're going to keep on waiting, we're going to keep on postponing, and I'm already out of date with the new NANOHA show, and I am going to start covering this new anime that I've been very excited for, which is Mahou Shoujo Lyrical NANOHA Exceeds Gunblaze Vengeance. What a big name. And I was planning to do lots of things related to NANOHA before this series came out, but ended up not having much time. I did not plan myself correctly. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I was expecting from this before I talk about the episode itself. I love the NANOHA franchise. It is great, but I don't love everything about it. There's too many anime series. There's also movies and everything. There are certain things I don't really like. And those things are usually when the franchise starts to focus on other characters that are not NANOHA and her crew, the main NANOHA team there. It happens mostly on NANOHA Strikers and NANOHA Vivid and Vivid Strike later on. And those are series that focus on other teams and other characters, even though NANOHA still appears on them. But, you know, it's not really my cup of tea. And this is more or less what I was feeling about this show right here, because it is focusing on a new character, it is focusing on a big new cast, it seems, but it also seemed by the trailers and by the promo that NANOHA was going to be a little bit more present than she was on Strikers or etc. So I was a little like in the middle of it. I'm excited because I want to see more NANOHA, but I'm also like, what is it going to be like? But then I noticed something. I feel like the one reason why I wasn't very engaged with Strikers or Vivid or Vivid Strike was that because I really didn't vibe with the main characters of those shows. Because after the first episode of Gunblade's Vengeance, I am already sold. Because I really, really like Sheena, who is the main character of this series. Loved this first episode, and this first episode was a bundle, like was 2 episodes together. And girl, as I said, I was not ready for what was to come here. Oh my god! And if you have never seen NANOHA, I think this might be a good introduction. I mean, I haven't seen the other episodes. I think up until episode 3 has already been released when I'm recording this video, so I haven't seen the other episodes. There might be some context needed, and I can provide that maybe if you need to in future videos and other types of videos, not really talking about the episodes. But this first episode at least sets up a very nice background for this character, for this show, and for the overall world that doesn't seem to be very complex, you know? And even though the story is very powerful, it is also very heartbreaking. And girl, I cried watching this. Anyways, let's start talking about the episode. The episode starts with basically the scenario of what we're going to see. 30 years ago, invaders started coming into our world and attacking our world, lots of destruction happening. And at least the start of this series is going to happen on a remote island to the east, it seems. And this is 30 years after the invaders have already started, right? Appearing on the planet. And we have this girl, or this teenager, she's 17, who is Sheena. And we see her battling some of the invaders. She uses her cell phone to analyze the invaders, and she uses guns to defeat them. And after she defeats them, she like takes pictures of them with her cell phone. And it is not just, when I saw the trailer, I was like, why is she doing this? But there's a reason. She, apart from analyzing, she also tracks how much each of them is worth, because this is how she makes her living. She earns her livings. She hunts the invaders, and then she gets paid when they are defeated. And she hunts all those 3 that are appearing, and a new big one appears, and she will use a bigger gun to defeat it as well. And she even takes a picture of him defeated. And Then we are introduced to her. Sheena is her name. Kuze Sheena. She is the main character. And this is her scenario. And she lives in this island, and this island has some invaders coming to it. And it's kind of weird how people seem to just go on to their lives. It's kind of like regular life together with invaders coming, and the invaders are dangerous. We can see like they were eating the fish, but still, Sheena was able to handle them nicely. It doesn't seem that they are that dangerous. And also in this first scene, we could notice that the invaders, they eat each other as well. And Sheena is always hunting them, and whenever she is coming back from school, it's shown that she even defeats other types of predators, and not predators, invaders. And those invaders that she beats in this moment, they seem to be very weak, but they're still invaders in our world, right? And then she gets home, and we are introduced to her sister. Her sister is Kuze Setsuna. She is 11 years old, and she's very good at house chores and everything. She is also very intelligent. She always takes good grades. We're also introduced to the fact that she was able to learn how to use guns with her grandfather. And the only family that she has now is Setsuna, her little sister. And then we're also introduced to the fact that she wants Setsuna to study on the mainland, and she wants to take Setsuna to the mainland. Setsuna doesn't really want to go, and she says like, "Oh, there's good food, there's good clothes there," and Setsuna's like, maybe. She's not really fazed by it too much. And then I think later on, it's kind of understandable why she wasn't really caring about studying hard to go to the mainland. And we are introduced to the fact that they are not blood related. Kuze Shina found Setsuna when she wasn't even called Setsuna during one of those attacks from the invaders, and Setsuna was all by herself. I think she didn't even have a name at that point. And this little girl was all by herself, and Sheena took her in and, raised her as a sister. And we're going to see that their bond is very strong, and, they are indeed sisters, and they live their lives. It's very cute. Their relationship they have is very cute. It's going to go deeper a little later. And then we're introduced to this. Who the people who watch NANOHA know who she is. Hayate. Oh my god, she's looking such a slay in this. And it seems that Sheena doesn't really like this company because she had a bad experience with them in the past when they came to the island to try and defeat the invaders in the island as well. And she shares it with her sister that they took all the money, etc. And then later on, I think it was on the next day, this character is also introduced to the show. And this is, he comes into the house and he says that he is feeling a presence there, and he wants this presence for himself. He scans Sheena and he doesn't find anything on her. Sheena, she starts trying to blast him because he turns into kind of like this monstrous creature. But when she hears a scream, Setsuna is also being attacked inside by predators, by invaders, and Sheena quickly goes in and she saves her, and they both run away from home. Sheena, destroying the ones that they meet along the way. And then they go to like this garage, and Setsuna is hidden in one of the cars while Sheena defeats all of the invaders that are there. And then when they're gonna run, Sheena's like, probably the only one that's still around is that guy that appeared in the house. And that guy mentions something, that he is searching for Majin. And Majin is translated in the Crunchyroll subtitles as Diaboli. And I think it's like kind of like a devil. I kind of like those type of creatures, and they're searching for those Majin, and they're just running away from the invaders, and they are found in the middle of many, many, many invaders. Obviously, Sheena can't do anything with her gun. She's just a regular girl. And at this point, I was like, okay, this is feeling too much like a regular show. It's not really feeling like a magical girl show at all. And it's just, a girl who knows how to use a gun. And she tries it with her best abilities, but she can't do anything. And both of them are captured by the invaders. And at this point, I thought, okay, Nanoha is going to appear here. She is going to, or Nanoha or Fate or someone is going to appear, and it's going to save both of them. And this is how Sheena is going to be introduced to the concept of a magical girl inside the Nanoha universe. And that's where things are going to kick off. But I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Because in this scene, what happens is that Setsuna is hit in the head and she faints. And when she faints, she is taken inside her own conscience and she meets this character. And at that point, I was like, who is she? But she is basically another version of Setsuna. And this girl asks her, you have two paths to follow. And you don't remember anything because I made you forget everything. And you have two paths to follow. Don't do anything and watch your sister die, or do something and save your sister but make her hate you. And for her, Setsuna, the choice is obvious. She's like, I'm here to save my sister. I'm going to do everything that I can to save my sister. And she awakens some sort of power inside of her, and she becomes this fiery version of herself. This fiery version of herself is really incredible, and it kind of reminded me of Hibiki from Symphogear. This visual kind of reminded me of her. It looked really nice, and she was able to defeat all of the invaders, but she also had kind of a rough time against that other invader that was searching for the Majin. And she was able to fight against him, but at the end of the day, Sheena also helped her, and they were able to stop him for a little while. But then she says that he is not defeated for good. They just stopped him for a little while. He is going to regenerate and come back. And at this point, she goes back into being Setsuna, and they don't properly have a conversation. What happens here is that, like, Sheena is asking her, like, what's going on? What happened? And she's like, I'm going to put you to sleep. She sleeps, and she takes her into a more secure place, that at least she believes it is. And she starts reminiscing and remembering all of the times that they have been together since she was adopted by Sheena. And she tells that she always knew she was a Majin, and she always knew that she was not a regular human, but she kept it from Sheena. And while they were spending time together, she decided that there was going to come to a point that she would tell Sheena that she was not a human and that she was a different kind of creature, that she kind of didn't really know what it was. But time went by, and she couldn't find the right time to say it. And she said she decided in her own heart that whenever this would start to bother Sheena and would start to disrupt her life, she would tell her, and she would simply disappear. They would never see themselves again. But she never really found the opportunity to tell her that. And while she is talking about this, we are seeing such lovely scenes from both of them. It is such a beautiful relationship. I was so heartwarmed at this moment. I was living for it. And she tells that she decided not to tell anything because at the end of the day, being honest to herself, she was just loving to be Sheena's sister. That's who she actually wanted to be. And that's who she was. That's who she became. And so she did not have the courage to tell the truth, and she did not have the courage to leave, because being honest, that's what she wanted to be. And she was crying too much because she was never able to tell her the truth. And she believed that the truth would disrupt their relationship because Sheena hates liars. And Sheena also hates lies. And so it's kind of like an Anna moment from Star Detective Brigure. But then Sheena was listening. She woke up and she was listening. And she told her that she knew. She knew she was a different kid. She knew that she was someone different. And at this point, I was like, really? I was so emotional at this moment. I was so emotional. And then right at the start of the episode, I didn't show this, but right at the start, we see that Sheena uses a charm a protective charm on her purse. And the charm was done by Setsuna. And Setsuna gave it to her when she was still a kid and everything. And we have this beautiful moment right here that is just everything. That ties in with what I was saying at the beginning, that I feel like this is a very good setup for those characters, and it makes me love them and root for them and really, really like their relationship. And that's something that I feel in this specific iteration of NANOHA that makes me really, really like those protagonists. And I also think that this scene kind of solidifies the relationship between the sisters and showcases how they both love each other very much. And this is going to become an important point for what's to come, for the disaster that is going to happen in the next scene. And that is also going to set the tone for Sheena's character for the whole show, I believe. It's just my thought. And honestly, as I said, I really, really love how they built this. So after this scene, they are ready to stand up together and to, now they know the truth. Now both of them, none of them are hiding anything from each other, because at the end of the day, both of them were hiding something. Setsuna was hiding her true self, and Sheena was hiding the fact that she knew that Setsuna wasn't human. But they were not saying anything because their relationship was already very good the way it was. The problem is that the world that they live in is a dangerous world, right? And even though they chose to stand together and, hold their hands and be together, this is not going to be possible because the monster that was regenerating attacks. And girl, when I saw this, I was like, okay, what happens here is that they both faint. And while they are fainting, like there's this puddle of blood in both of the characters. And I thought, okay, Setsuna is just going to become her Majin self again. She's going to fight again. She's probably not going to make it. But then Nanoha will appear and she will save them and everything will be fine. But no, this is not what happens. So Sheena, she faints. And when she wakes up, the other Majin, is eating Setsuna already. And she notices this because she sees Setsuna's hoodie all torn apart and her body is nowhere to be found. She's being chown by this horrible monster. And Setsuna even mentions this, that the Majin, they eat each other to absorb their powers, to absorb the power of the other Majin. I think it's something like that. But it's clear that they eat each other. And we see that at the start of the episode as well. The invaders, they do this. But I was like, is it only the creatures that don't really seem to have a mind like a human mind, like this one did? But it seems it's all of them. And maybe those ones that are Majin themselves, they are stronger, they're more powerful, and they eat each other so that they become even stronger. And that's what he did with Setsuna. But then Sheena is transported into this place. It's probably like inside her mind or inside her soul. And in here, she is confused as to what's going on, but she meets Setsuna again. And at this point in time, she hugs Setsuna very tightly, and Setsuna starts saying that this is time for her to give it her all to Sheena. And this is going to make them be together forever. And Sheena's like, oh, please don't talk like that. When you say it like that, it feels like it's a goodbye. And at this point, it was clear for me, because a little before that, while the monster, the Majin, was chewing Setsuna, I was like, she might break out inside of him, and she might like do this beam, this fiery power, and she will destroy him from the inside. But then after this scene, when this scene was happening, I was like, yeah, the tragedy is indeed happening. Setsuna is not going to survive this. And she tells Sheena that she will give it her all and she will live with her forever. And both of them cry a lot. It's a very heartfelt scene. And at this point, I honestly, I started crying because I was already invested in the story of those two sisters. I love those type of stories of found families. I love whenever two characters get this strong bond, and they start living together, and they start sharing life, and life is more beautiful because you have that other person on your life. And this can be for any type of relationship. It can be a, a mother and a daughter, a father and a daughter, a mother and a son, etc. It can be friends finding each other. It can be siblings. It can be love, basically anything. And I love those type of stories, and this was really painful to me because I was already very invested in the story of those two siblings, in the story of the Kuze family. And this was everything that Sheena had. It was everything she had. And she was broken. We could see this. But as Setsuna said, Setsuna is going to live inside of her from now on. And honestly, I don't know how this worked in the show because Setsuna was being eaten by the other Majin. So I was imagining, like, okay, he is going to be the one to get her power, if that's how it works. But I feel like it worked more like magic, more like a soul connection. And her power ended up going to Sheena, and Sheena was the one to actually get the blaze power onto her, and she became this fiery warrior. And again, the magical girl part of it really blooming and happening in front of our eyes. It was really nice. And then she started fighting this Majin. And girl, what a scene we had. We already had great fighting moments before this with the fiery Setsuna, and even the gun fights that we had for Sheena, they were very nice too. Even though I'm not a big fan of guns, I never really like whenever characters have guns as weapons, unless they're like magical guns. Then I'm happy with it. It's what kind of her guns are gonna become after she gets the fiery powers, right? Because she can punch, she can fight physically, and she makes this hole in on his body, and then he keeps on fighting. He calls in reinforcements, and she starts using the guns. But this time, the guns don't work normally. They canalize her firepower, and we have an amazing sequence of her fighting with the gun. This was very good. This was CG in the middle of the episode, but it was very, very nice, finishing with a scene that didn't seem to be CG. Very, very cool. And then the big Majin started doing like this expanded version of himself all around her. This reminded me a lot of like those Resident Evil monsters, those Silent Hill monsters that create like this meat, and it kind of reproduces itself. It's very bizarre. And then she used the big gun. She used this big power to canalize an even bigger power. And with one huge fire shot, she was able to defeat the Majin. After this, she was all by herself. And this was very painful to watch because the fight is always nice. It was exciting. It had background music, sung music. It was not only background, but it was actually a song, like a song with lyrics. And after this, the adrenaline is down. You have to face reality. And I thought that this was going to be even harder to watch. It wasn't really. Sheena was able to come to terms with it kind of easily. She started coming back to normal. Her hair started coming back to normal, even though it is now permanently orange on the lower half. And she found Setsuna's hoodie and she hugged it, and she said that now they're going to be together forever. And as I said, I thought that this was going to be tougher to watch. It wasn't as emotional as I was thinking it was going to be. It felt like Sheena had already come to terms with it, but it was still very beautiful. It's not really a criticism. It's kind of, but not really a criticism. I was expecting it to have a little bit more of an emotional impact, but it was a softer scene. It was like a more of a heartwarming scene after the disaster that just happened. And then she is now with a power inside of her, and she makes a decision. This is how her hair is. It seems permanently. She makes a decision to leave the island, and she goes to the mainland because as she says now she's going to do kind of a monologue. As she says, she is now a Majin as well. She is now a demon, kind of. And she starts chasing the invaders on the mainland. And we also have another great scene of her using the powers. And she also is able to absorb the invaders that she defeats. And she doesn't really know what they're working for when she absorbs them, but she believes they are fueling her firepower. That is how she describes the action that she is doing. And she starts describing a little bit of her life on the mainland, and we can see that in the mainland it seems that things are a little tougher. It's way more destroyed than the island that she lived in. And that is why I believed at the start, like, they're living such a normal life, but it doesn't seem to be that way on the mainland, which seems to be the most affected place. It seems that the invaders don't come often to the island. So, like, it seems that the hunting club from school and Sheena herself, they were able to keep it on a normal level. And she also mentioned that for the people who live on the island, for them not to know about the Majin, because it seems that it's not something that people know about, society knows about. It was told to them that the man that arrived on their house was a man that was having a psychotic moment, and he was also a searched criminal on the mainland. And so that's what it was told to them. And so now she moved. She's not going to have to deal with the people again. And she is just, chasing the monsters here. And she is using the hoodie from Setsuna there. And she is also using the charm that Setsuna did for her. And she sees a big, big, big invader coming, and the invader is coming towards her camp, and she doesn't want her camp to be destroyed. So she fuels herself and she goes to the camp, but she sees that there's a girl in that camp. And she's like, what is that girl doing there? Oh my God, I need to save her. What is she thinking? Get out of there. She starts screaming. But then the girl pulls out her weapon and she just rocks it out. It is her. It is Nanoha destroying the big monster. And I'm gonna be honest, it was very easy for Nanoha. It was kind of underwhelming to see her do that because it was very little for what big things Nanoha can do with her power, and we all know that. But then she introduces herself as Takamachi Nanoha. I was so happy to hear her voice again. I was so happy. This was such a cute scene. And Sheena was shocked. Sheena already had a little bit of experience with Exceeds, which is the faction that Nanoha is part of now. I feel like we're going to discover more about Exceeds in the next few episodes, because this is not a concept that was introduced in Nanoha before, right? So it is something that we're going to know in the future, I believe. So if you have never seen Nanoha and you don't know what Exceeds is, that's fine, because I don't either. So we're gonna see how this came to be, the Exceeds that we're gonna see in the show. Because I mean, they were already part of the space time bureau, and there might be this division that is called Exceeds. I don't remember if there was Exceeds already in Reflection Detonation. If there was, I already forgot because my memory is horrible. But I was very happy to see Nanoha again. And as I said, I am very happy with this first. I'm very sad with this first episode because I was really not expecting for it to go down like this, like the sisters story. It was really tough to watch, but it was also very good. I think it was a very good introduction for Sheena's character. And as I said, I feel like this is something that is just going to create a very nice protagonist for the Nanoha world, because I really didn't feel that on the other series from Nanoha that were not focusing on Nanoha herself and Fate and Hayate to an extent too. So for now, loved this episode. I am heartbroken. My heart is in pieces, but I'm very excited for the future of NANOHA. And as I said, this was the first video of Cinnamon After Dark, a channel that I created to do magical world content that is not related to Precure. Now Magical Cinnamon is going to be Precure only, and Cinnamon After Dark is going to be non-Precure magical girls. And the idea After Dark comes from the fact that I am able to talk about different types of shows, different types of magical girls that wouldn't really fit the Magical Cinnamon aesthetic, Magical Cinnamon persona, so I'm going to use this channel to focus on other things. Visuals are coming, so this Magical Cinnamon border is not gonna appear here. In the future, I don't know when, but I need to catch up with Gunblaze Vengeance, so this might appear quite a few more times, okay? Anyways, this is it for today. If you've watched up to now, thank you for watching the first video of Cinnamon After Dark, and I'll see you in the second one related to the second episode of Gunblaze Vengeance. Bye-bye!